Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to be taking a look at accessible educational materials,
Yeah.
or AEM for short.
Yes, AEM.
We've got an awesome guide here from the Oregon Technology Access Program, and it's chock full of tips and strategies and real-world advice
Real world advice, it's important
on how to make sure you get the AEM that you need to succeed.
to succeed.
That's any classroom.
And you know what really stood out to me when I was looking at this guide
Yeah.
was how much it focuses on empowering you, giving you the tools to take control of your own learning.
Yes. I love that about it.
Yeah, it's not just about what other people should be doing for you. It's like how you can actually shape the experience for yourself.
It's very much about taking ownership and, like you were saying, feeling empowered to be your own advocate.
Absolutely.
But before we get into all of that,
Yes.
let's just take a step back and make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, what are we talking about here?
What exactly are accessible educational materials?
Right.
Can you break that down for us?
So, it's actually a much broader category than a lot of people realize. AEM can be anything from, audio recordings of textbooks to large print handouts to, digital text that you can customize,
Gotcha.
Braille captions, even descriptions of like what's happening in videos.
So it's really kind of this wide spectrum of different formats.
It is. And the key is figuring out like which of those formats really works best for you, for how you learn best.
Right. And so just to give our listener a couple of really specific examples.
Sure.
We could be talking about a textbook
Yep.
that reads itself aloud to you.
Yeah, audiobooks are great.
Or notes on your computer that you can enlarge the font size, change the color.
Well, that's huge for a lot of folks.
To make them easier to see, to make them easier to read.
Absolutely.
And so this is something that students have a legal right to correct.
They absolutely do, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the legal side of things?
Yeah, so, federal law, specifically the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, makes it very clear that if you need AEM to learn effectively, you have a right to receive it.
So that's the law.
It is.
And that's fantastic, but...
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Sometimes you need to be your own best advocate.
Yes, and the guide dives deep into this self-advocacy piece.
Love it.
And I think that's what makes it so unique.
I agree.
Because it's not just about knowing your rights.
Right.
It's about having the confidence to use your voice.
Exactly. And taking ownership, right? Like understanding what you need and then being able to communicate that clearly.
And I think we've all had experiences even outside of school where we've had to advocate for ourselves.
All the time.
Right? Think about that time you had to return something that was broken to a store. Or,
Right.
Complain about something that was wrong with your meal at a restaurant.
I've done that a few times.
Right? Those same skills apply here.
They do.
Now, the guide includes a really interesting self-assessment tool.
Yeah.
What role does that play in self-advocacy, and how should we think about this self-assessment? Is it like a test?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
Think of it more like as a personal inventory. It's to help you really figure out like where your strengths are and maybe where you could use a little bit of support when it comes to AEM.
So it's helping you to get a sense of your starting point in
Exactly.
terms of your self-advocacy skills?
Exactly. And the guide kind of breaks this down into like 4 main areas.
Okay.
You've got setting goals for how you're going to use AEM.
Okay.
You've got advocating for yourself.
Got it.
You've got the technology side of things, like being able to actually work the tech that you need to use AEM.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And then managing those materials.
Right, because it's one thing to have access to the materials.
It is.
But it's another thing to be able to organize them and use them effectively.
Absolutely. So, for example, one of the questions that the self-assessment might ask is, how comfortable are you describing your learning goals or asking for help with AEM when you need it?
So it's really helping you to pinpoint those areas where you might need to build some confidence.
Absolutely. And the most important thing with this self-assessment is to just be honest with yourself.
Be honest with yourself. Yeah, don't try to game the system or pretend to be something you're not.
Yeah, this is purely for you.
Right.
It's not a pass or fail thing. It's just about gathering information that you can use to make a plan.
And then the guide also really emphasizes the importance of having a strong support network.
Oh, huge.
Why is that so crucial?
Well, think about it, right? You've got your teachers, you've got your parents, you've got your friends, maybe you've got disability support staff at your school.
Right.
All of these people could be part of your AEM team.
Your AEM team. I love that.
And by identifying who those people are and how they can help. You're really setting yourself up for success.
Yeah. And the guide even provides this great worksheet.
It does.
Called the AEM Circle of Support, which I think can be so helpful in really mapping out who are those key people in your life.
Absolutely.
Who can support you on this journey.
It's all about strategizing, right? Like, who are the decision makers?
Right. Who are the people that can give you the emotional support?
Yeah, who are the people that can provide the tech support?
Who are the cheerleaders?
Exactly.
Who are the tech experts?
So you've done that self-assessment. You've figured out, like, okay, here's where I am. Here are my strengths. Here are some areas where I could use some help.
Yep.
And you've assembled your team. You've got your circle of support.
What's next?
Well, let me tell you about May. She's a 7th grader who really struggled with reading, standard print. Just didn't work for her. She said that the letters kind of seemed to like dance on the page.
Wow.
But then she discovered digital text with a read aloud function.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it was like a light bulb went off.
Her comprehension just
skyrocketed. Yeah, she was able to focus better. She was understanding the material more deeply.
And it was just because she had access to that different format.
Exactly. The right format can make all the difference.
So now imagine if May had to explain all of that to every single teacher every time she started a new class.
Right. That's exhausting.
That's where the guide's idea of an AEM profile comes in.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is and why it's so useful?
So an AEM profile is basically a document that you create that lays out all of your key AEM needs in one place.
And it's like your accessibility cheat sheet.
Think of it that way.
You don't have to start from scratch every time.
Exactly. You've got this document ready to go that clearly explains, here's what I need to succeed.
Now, in May's case, what did her AEM profile look like? What kind of information did she include in there?
So she definitely included her preferred AEM formats, right?
Oh, okay, so like digital text audiobooks?
Exactly. But she also went a step further. She actually explained like why she preferred digital text for, most subjects, but chose audiobooks for anything that had like complex visuals.
So she gave context.
Yeah.
She helped her teachers to understand not just what she needed.
Right.
But why she needed it.
Why it was important for her. And that made it so much easier for her teachers to be like, okay, I get it now.
Right. I see how I can support you.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and really owning your learning experience.
May's story is a fantastic example of planning.
Right?
But what about when it's time to put that plan into action?
Ah, yes.
What are some of the challenges that students might encounter?
Well, let me tell you about Julio. He's a 9th grader with a visual impairment, and he relies on large print materials, especially in his chemistry lab.
Okay.
The problem was his teacher kept forgetting to pick those materials up from the office.
Oh, no.
So Julio was constantly scrambling, trying to catch up, falling behind.
Yeah, that's a really tough situation.
It was not a good situation at all.
So what did he do? Did he just complain to the teacher?
He could have, but he actually took a much more effective approach.
Okay.
He knew exactly what he needed and why, right? Yeah. That's self-knowledge. He also knew that he had a right to these materials, right? Knowledge of right.
Knowledge of your rights.
And then he put those two things together and had a conversation with his teacher.
Love it.
About the situation. That's communication.
Those are like the 3 pillars
right there
of self-advocacy.
They are.
I love how he owned that situation.
He did. And the best part is he didn't just complain. He worked with his teacher.
Yeah.
To find a solution, they actually came up with a system where the office assistant would deliver the materials straight to the classroom.
Brilliant.
Problem solved.
That's a perfect example of how effective communication can lead to a win-win for everybody involved.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of planning and thinking through those tricky situations, the guide also has this really helpful worksheet called My Plan for Self-Advocacy.
I love that worksheet.
Tell me about that.
So this worksheet, it really helps you think through those difficult situations you might encounter. It prompts you to kind of identify, okay, what's the problem here?
Right.
Who can help me solve this problem?
Yeah.
And it even has you plan out what you're going to say.
Wow. So you can actually rehearse.
You can rehearse it.
The conversation in your head.
Exactly. And you can anticipate, okay, what might they say back? What are some questions they might ask?
What if they say no?
What if they push back, right?
Exactly.
How am I going to handle that?
So it really helps you to kind of plan for all those contingencies.
It does. And that kind of preparation can make a huge difference.
So we've laid some really great groundwork here.
We have.
We understand what AEM is.
Yes.
We know we have a right to it.
Absolutely.
We've got our AEM support squad assembled.
The dream team.
And we've even got tools to help us plan for those tricky situations.
Yeah, that's right. And, the guide doesn't stop there.
Oh, there's more.
There's more.
I love it.
It actually goes on to outline 6 specific steps for effective self-advocacy.
Okay, so these are like actionable steps.
Actionable steps, a roadmap for navigating any AEM challenge.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is good.
So are you ready to break those steps down and give our listeners some real concrete advice?
Let's do it. I'm ready to dive into the nitty-gritty.
I love it. Let's do it.
And equip our listeners with all the tools they need to be their own AEM champion.
All right, let's do it. All right, so those 6 steps.
6 steps, yes.
Let's break it down.
Let's do it.
Where do we even begin when it comes to advocating for ourselves?
So step 1 is pretty straightforward, but it's super important, and that's to really clearly define the problem that you're facing and what you need to solve it.
So it's not enough to just say, hey, I need AEM.
No, you got to be specific, right?
Give me an example.
So like I need digital text with text-to-speech for my history textbook.
Oh.
I have a hard time processing information from just printed text alone.
Okay, so you're getting really specific about
Just super specific.
the format that you need, and you're also connecting it to why you need it.
Yes, that's important.
Love that. Okay, so we've got step 1 down.
Step 1 done.
You've clearly defined our problem.
Yes.
What's next?
Step 2 is all about gathering intel.
Gathering intel.
Yeah, so what resources does your school offer?
Okay.
What technology is involved? Do you have an IEP or a 504 plan that supports your request? The more you know,
knowledge is power,
the better equipped you'll be to advocate for yourself.
Love it. Okay, so we've defined the problem. We've done our research.
We are informed.
Now what?
Now we get to the fun part.
Ooh, tell me more.
Step 3 is where you assemble your dream team, your AEM dream team.
Okay, I love this.
Who are the people that can help make this happen?
Okay.
Right, so we're talking teachers, counselors.
Disability support staff.
Family members.
Yeah, this is where that circle of support worksheet comes in.
Oh, yes, pull that bad boy out.
Right, map it out. Who are those key people?
Who are your allies?
Yes, and how can they each contribute?
It's all about strategizing, right? Like, who are the decision makers?
Right.
Who are the people that can provide emotional support? Who's got the tech expertise?
Right.
Reach out to your team, ask questions, and leverage those strengths.
Yes.
Use them to your advantage.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It does.
It does. Okay, so now we're getting to the heart of self-advocacy.
We are.
Communication. Yes.
Step 4, tell me about it.
All right, so it's time to plan your communication strategy.
Okay.
Practice what you're going to say, anticipate questions they might ask, or even some pushback. And remember, communication is a two-way street.
It is.
Active listening is key.
So I might even role play some tricky conversations.
Oh, that's a great idea.
With a friend.
Yeah, get comfortable.
Just to kind of get used to saying the words out loud and get that muscle memory going.
Exactly. And it's also important, I think, to tailor your communication.
Oh, absolutely.
To your audience.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to a teacher,
right,
you might highlight how AEM is going to help you to succeed in their class.
Exactly. And if you're talking to a classmate, you might focus on helping them understand why certain accommodations are important.
Right.
Meet people where they're at.
And I think, going back to Julio's story, he did such a good job of explaining to his teacher, how not having the materials on time was actually impacting his learning.
Yes.
And he really made it about a shared goal.
He found that common ground.
Success in chemistry.
Right. It wasn't just complaining. It was like, hey, we're in this together.
Yes, let's work together.
Let's find a solution.
To make this happen.
Partnership.
Okay, so I've put myself out there.
You've done it.
I've had the conversations. I've advocated for myself. What's next?
So now it's time to take stock.
Step 5 is all about evaluating the outcome. Evaluating.
Yes. So did you get what you needed? Did you get any roadblocks?
Right. Were there any surprises?
Exactly. Take a moment to reflect. Celebrate the wins, of course.
Yes.
But also think about what worked well and what you might do differently next time.
So even if things didn't go perfectly,
right,
it's not the end of the world.
It's not a part of the learning process.
Yeah.
Right? Self-advocacy is a journey, not a destination.
I love that. Okay, so we've evaluated the outcome now. What?
Now it's decision time.
Decision time.
Step 6 is about deciding your next move.
Okay.
So do you need to refine your approach?
Okay.
Do you need to seek out additional support?
Uh-huh.
Do you need to set a new goal entirely?
So it's about constantly kind of reassessing.
Reassessing and iterating, yes.
And adjusting.
And being persistent.
Yes.
The key is to keep moving forward.
So these 6 steps are like our roadmap.
Your roadmap.
For self-advocacy. But, sometimes I think having a concrete example
Examples are great.
can really help to bring it to life. So let's imagine this.
Yep.
You're starting a new semester.
New semester, fresh start.
And you're going to need digital text with text-to-speech for your upcoming history course.
Okay.
So that's our starting point. We need digital text for history.
Got it.
Let's walk through those 6 steps.
Let's do it.
And see how this plays out in real life.
I love it.
So step 1.
Okay, so step 1, remember, is to pinpoint the issue, right? And what you need to solve it.
Right. So I need digital text for history.
So you might say, I need digital text with text-to-speech for my history textbook. Listening while reading really helps me to focus and understand complex information.
Okay, so we've clearly defined the need, and we've connected it to a learning goal.
Boom, we're killing it.
All right, step 2.
Step 2, gather that intel.
Intel.
What platform does your school use for digital textbooks? Do you need specific software or apps?
Right.
Do you have any documentation from your IEP that supports this need?
Okay, do your research.
Do your research.
Step 3.
Step 3, build the dream team.
Dream team.
Who are your key players in this situation?
Who's on the roster?
So it might be your history teacher, your guidance counselor,
Yeah.
A tech support person,
Yeah.
Even a family member that's good with computers.
Right. Okay, we've got our team.
Team assembled.
Step 4.
Communication time to shine.
Okay.
You might schedule a meeting with your history teacher.
Okay.
Before the semester even starts, share your AEM profile.
Okay.
Explain why digital text is so important for your learning.
And remember to listen to what they have to say.
Two-way street.
Yes.
Okay, so let's imagine you've done all this.
Okay.
You're ready to rock your history class.
I'm ready.
But then you hit a snag.
What happened?
Maybe the software isn't compatible with your laptop.
Okay.
Or there's a delay in getting those access codes.
Tech problems happen.
They do. So this is where steps 5 and 6 come into play.
Okay.
First, you got to evaluate the situation, right?
Assess.
Assess how big of a problem is this?
Okay.
Is this a quick fix? Or is this a more serious roadblock?
Okay. And then
when we decide on the best next steps.
Next steps.
So do you need to troubleshoot the tech issue?
Okay.
Do you need to explore an alternative solution? Do you need to loop back in with your support team?
Got it. So it's about being flexible and persistent.
Exactly. You got this.
So this hypothetical scenario really shows us
It does.
how these 6 steps
Actionable.
can be applied in a real-life situation.
Real-world problems.
Yes.
Real-world solutions.
Exactly. And I think it breaks it down into such manageable pieces
Right.
that it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
It shouldn't feel overwhelming. It should feel empowering.
I love that. I love how practical this all is.
Me too.
And, I think the big takeaway here is that the goal isn't just about getting AEM.
Right.
It's about creating a learning experience that truly works for you.
It's about owning your learning and shaping that experience.
Okay, so we've got our 6 steps down.
We do.
We've walked through a real-life example.
We have.
We're feeling empowered.
We are unstoppable.
What else can we equip our listener with?
Ooh, I like that. What else?
As we move toward wrapping up this deep dive.
Okay, let's do it.
So we've talked about what AEM is, why it matters, those 6 steps for self-advocacy.
Yeah, those are big.
Are there any other, tips or tricks
Ooh, tips and tricks. I like it.
that you think our listeners should keep in mind as they kind of embark on this journey?
One thing that I think often gets overlooked is the importance of documentation.
Ooh, documentation.
Yeah, so whenever you request AEM, make a note of it.
Okay.
Keep a record of those conversations with teachers, with support staff.
So like a paper trail?
Kind of, yeah.
Why is that so important?
Well, it serves a few purposes. First of all, it helps you to stay organized.
Okay.
Right, and see the bigger picture. Are there certain requests that are consistently being met? Are there certain roadblocks that you keep hitting over and over again?
So you can start to see those patterns.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And if you ever need to formally request accommodations or, heaven forbid, file a grievance,
Right.
that documentation becomes really important.
It's like having evidence to back up your claim.
Exactly. It shows that you've been proactive and that you're serious about getting those needs met.
Now, what about resources outside of the school setting?
Yeah.
Are there organizations or groups that can help students with this whole AEM world?
Absolutely. The guide mentions a couple specifically, like FD Oregon.
Okay.
And the Coalition for Assistive Technology in Oregon.
Got it.
And they provide tons of information and support and even advocacy services.
Fantastic. So even if you're feeling lost or, You just need a little extra help.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Reach out. There are people out there who can support you.
And I imagine there are also like online forums and communities.
Oh, yeah?
Where students can connect with each other.
Huge. Those can be amazing resources.
Yeah.
Just to share tips and advice.
And
yeah, that sense of community can be so powerful.
It's that whole we're in this together feeling.
Exactly. You realize you're not the only one facing these challenges.
Right. And sometimes just knowing that can be so validating.
Absolutely.
You know what I've really appreciated throughout this whole conversation is this shift in perspective that the guide encourages. It's not about special treatment.
Right.
It's about creating an equal playing field.
Yes.
Where everyone has the chance to succeed.
And you know what? When you advocate for your AEM needs, you're not just benefiting yourself. You're helping to create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment for everybody.
It's about changing the culture.
It is.
So as we wrap up this incredible deep dive into AEM,
yes,
what's that one message that you hope our listener will take away?
I want them to remember the power of their own voice.
Yes.
You have a right to an accessible education, and by embracing self-advocacy, you are taking control of your learning journey.
Yes, and the skills and the knowledge that we've talked about today, that's just the beginning.
It is. Put those tools into action.
Find what works for you.
Exactly.
And never give up on creating the learning experience you deserve.
Beautifully said. Go out there, be a champion for accessibility, advocate for yourself, and inspire others to do the same.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into accessible educational materials. Thanks for joining us.
Keep learning, keep advocating, and keep diving deep.